What is up everyone, it's Saber here and welcome to another Naruto What If. If you end up liking the video, please consider subscribing. It's free and you can take it back at any time and it really helps me out, and this is my third channel, so if you want some more what ifs, go check out my other channels. And with all of the YouTube formalities out of the way, let's get into it. I'm beat, he thought, and let out a sigh as he slowly made his way out of the woods outside of Muzutofo City. Driving Izuku to the very limit had been taxing on himself as well. Rather than being physically exhausted, he was mentally exhausted. Treating his friend so badly and putting him through such punishment had made his stress level increase greatly. On his back, the bruised and battered Izuku was sleeping soundly, snoring and drooling on his shoulder. As for their backpacks, Naruto had tied them to his fluffy fox tail, but at least he did it. He was proud of Izuku. He was also amazed at the boy's tenacity and stubbornness. For someone who had grown up in a peaceful environment to have that kind of willpower, it was amazing to say the least. That's because the average people in this world were different, living in a time of peace in a country where villains were mostly suppressed by the strength of the heroes and the existence of All Might. The average people were weak-willed, physically weak and mentally weak as well. They expected someone else to save them. His thoughts going back to Konoha. Naruto inadvertently started comparing his previous life with his current life on Earth. Back in the elemental nations, children were indoctrinated from a very frail age to believe that there was no greater honor than to protect their village, the so-called will of fire, for the sake of the village. Even sacrificing one's family was noble, and just in times of war it was normal to even send children as young as 10 on the front line, serving as little more than cannon fodder against the enemy forces. That's how Uchiha Itachi ended up massacring his entire family for the sake of Konoha. That's also how my father had committed suicide for the sake of sealing Kurama into my body. That's how he had made me into a human sacrifice. It was all for the sake of the village. A shinobi endures, a shinobi sacrifices everything for the village. His train of thought stopped as he finally exited the woods, and the night lights of the city appeared in the distance. You're sleeping without a care, aren't you? Naruto asked Izuku, despite knowing that he couldn't hear him. It's okay, you deserve it, but man, you sure gained a lot of weight over the past year. You got heavier than I am. Did you bulk up that much? He knelt on the ground on the side of the road and put the sleeping Izuku down for a moment to catch his breath. Shit, why am I so tired today? Raising his hands above his head, he stretched his back and let out a loud yawn, his sharper than average teeth glinting in the moonlight. Wiping his yawn tears away, he absent-mindedly scratched at his lower back for a while, but after that he put the sleeping Izuku again on his back and started walking again towards the city. As weeks passed, the students of one class at UA had become increasingly familiar with each other. In everyone's minds, several labels were created about their classmates, and as Mineta Minoru would put it, a sort of social hierarchy appeared. There were the popular kids, the average ones, the perverts, the bully, and so on. A label had been slapped on Naruto and his classmates' minds too. To put it simply, if students were given the freedom to choose their partner during All Might's combat training classes, most of them would be clamoring to get either Todoroki Shoto or Uzumaki Naruto on their team. Always cheerful and helpful, having a decent quirk and incredible combat strength, and a mind that came up with all sorts of devious plans. It was not difficult to see why he had become so popular. However, all that was only during the class. Once classes ended, the fox boy never hung out with them. It was now the third week into their first high school year, and Naruto had yet to form any close friendships with anyone in his class. Every time someone asked him to join them after class, he would say that he was busy and make himself scarce in a matter of seconds. I wonder what's Uzumaki's secret. Why is he avoiding us? Kirishima said as he watched the fox boy grab his backpack and wave his hand in goodbye at everyone before leaving. He's always turning down people asking him out, and I've never seen him eat together with us in the cafeteria either. I mean, I wouldn't eat at the cafeteria either if I were in his place. Kaminari said, have you seen the kind of lunchboxes he brings to school every day? Ever since Naruto had turned a new leaf, his mother had started pampering and spoiling him much more than before. Naruto wasn't avoiding anyone on purpose. There was just no point in him going to the cafeteria when his mom cooked for him, and after class he was busy with his training. He didn't have time to fool around with children. I bet he's seeing a girl. The tiny boy Mineta Minoru said, his face green with envy. Ike, men bastards like him always have the girls flock around them. He's probably seeing 3 girls at the same time and making them cook for him. He's surely the boy's dark ramblings were suddenly stopped when teeny Ida smacked him upside the head. Mineta-san, that was a very rude way to talk about your classmate. Regardless of the class rep's scolding, Mineta's words had already inflicted the maximum damage. If the looks on the faces of the other students were anything to go by, hey, who wants to see what Naruto is up to after class? Mina Ishido asked. I kinda want to know too. Kaminari said, count me in. Mineta said. Mineta, Mina, and Kaminari weren't the only ones curious about Naruto's secret. 3 others decided to tag along. Yaoyorozu Kirishima and Kyoka coming out in the courtyard of the school. They saw Naruto waiting for someone at the gates. 2 minutes later, a green-haired 15-year-old boy with a strong-looking body but an innocent face came out of the school building and bumped fists with the fox boy as a greeting. "Who's that guy? Do any of you know him?" Kaminari asked. "Keep it down, you idiot, or he's gonna hear us." "Did you forget about his sense of hearing?" Kyoka cheered at him in a harsh whisper. "Figures you didn't forget about it," the blonde countered snidely, only to let out a yowl of pain when one of her earphone jacks stabbed him in the neck. Naruto turned his head towards the noise only to see Kaminari rolling on the ground in pain comically and another 5 or 6 of his classmates glaring at him murderously. "See you tomorrow, guys," Naruto said out loud and waved his hand in goodbye before turning around and leaving with his friend. "What's with that?" Mina burst after Naruto left with Izuku through the gates. "Whenever we ask him to hang out with us after class, he always says he's busy. That's what he's busy with." "Who's that guy anyway?" "Arg, this is so annoying. I know everyone in class 1B by name and appearance, but I haven't seen his friend until now. He's not from the hero course," Yaoyorozu said. 30 minutes later, following Naruto and Izuku from a distance, the 6 UA students found themselves staring at a dingy-looking gym from across the street. "Now what, we can't just barge in, we'll blow our cover," Kyoka said. "Hey, Hukaris, I say we just go home now," Mineta said and clicked his tongue. The tiny boy had been hoping that their little spying would uncover some dirty secret about Naruto and make his place in the social hierarchy of the class collapse. Seeing him doing something as mundane as going to the gym greatly disappointed him, but a boy next to him had a completely different opinion. "Uzumaki was a gym rat." "Awesome," Kirishima yelled, and before the other 5 could stop him, he broke into a run and barged into the gym. "Kirishima, wait!" Mina yelled in annoyance and ran after him too. The rest could only sigh helplessly and run after them inside. "What kind of place is this?" Yaoyorozu said with a stutter. For a young lady that had lived in a select environment, the atmosphere in the gym left her momentarily intimidated. She wasn't the only one though. The 2 other girls, Mina and Jiro and Mineta Minoru, were scared too. The 4 teens unconsciously huddled together, no different than how herd animals reacted when surrounded by predators. Nearly 20 men of all ages and appearances were standing around an open space where they would take turns doing deadlifts. The whole gym reverberated with their screams of encouragement and their manly grunts of exertion as they gave it their all to surpass their limits. The group of teens arrived there just in time to see Naruto shoving his green-haired friend in the middle of the circle in the open area, wearing proper deadlifting equipment, special shoes, a weightlifting belt, and shin protectors. Midoriya Izuku rubbed his palms with some chalk powder while the rest of the guys in the circle around him were yelling at the top of their lungs, "Kill it, Midoriya, you can do it, boy, fight UAA." The bass-boosted music blasting in the background, the roars of the men filled with testosterone, and the loud sounds of weights slamming on the floor made even Kaminari huddle up together with Mineta and the 3 girls out of the 6 students that followed Naruto after school. Only Kirishima was having a good time. Scratch that, the red-haired boy looked positively electrified. He had joined the crowd of burly men around the ring and had started screaming together with them too. Finishing his preparations, Izuku stepped in front of the heavy barbell. Bending down, he stood still for a few moments to find a good position with his hands. Then, with a grunt of exertion, the muscles of his arms, back and thighs bulged as he stood up. Hold it, 2 more seconds. Done, good job, boy." Izuku threw his barbell to the ground and let out a scream of victory. At that moment, his usually timid and nerdy personality was nowhere to be seen. Adrenaline coursing through his veins, Izuku yelled one more time when they saw him adding 2 more plates, 5 kilograms each. The men erupted into beast-like screams again. Many in the crowd could lift 5 or even 10 times heavier weights than what the quirkless boy could. However, over the past year they noticed the nerdy boy's transformation, his consistency, and his hard work. Although quirkless and much weaker than the majority of them, Izuku had earned their respect with his hard work. Moreover, despite their intimidating looks, gym rats were some of the nicest people one could meet. Seeing a boy as honest and as diligent as Izuku, they wanted to cheer him on. "Good job, man, you broke your record, 155 kilograms. Naruto congratulated Izuku once he came out from the deadlifting ring. "Haha, thanks," Izuku said and laughed with a foolish expression on his face. It was almost as if he was high. "My turn now," Naruto said with a grin. They high-fived each other before he stepped into the open area wearing black shorts, a bright orange wife beater, a pair of orange sneakers on his feet, a special fitness mask that covered his nose and mouth, and having 2 fluffy fox ears on his head and a bushy golden fox tail at his back. Naruto's appearance was rather Goofy oi oi, is he serious? Kirishima mumbled to himself when he saw that the fox boy continued to put plates on the barbell until it became 5 times heavier than his body weight. Standing at a height of 165 centimeters, Naruto weighed only 70 kilograms. Bushy foxtail included, compared to Izuku, who had bulked up and looked rather muscular. After 1 year of intense training, Naruto looked the same as usual, fit and toned but not muscular, rather similar to how he used to look at that age in his previous life due to his fox quirk. His body was predisposed towards agility rather than brute strength. Still, the blonde had never given up on increasing his physical strength after years of training his body. Although his quirk gave him an overwhelming agility perk, his strength had increased steadily thanks to his hard work as well. Izuku watched in slight envy how the blonde deadlifted 350 kg. Without any evident signs of strain on his face, it was impossible for quirkless people to lift such weights at the age of 15. Putting the barbell down, Naruto momentarily let go of it and scratched at his lower back. "Did you get flies in your tail, Blondie?" someone asked, making everyone bark with laughter at his expense. "Shut up, you're just jelly. You don't get any girls with that bald head of yours," Naruto retorted, eliciting another round of laughter. Bantering like that was the norm among them. As a hardcore gym, it had a rather small number of members, so pretty much everyone knew everyone, sharing a common interest and frequenting the same place for a long time would naturally lead to people becoming friends. After a while, putting 2 more plates of 20 kg each. This time Naruto cried out in exertion when he pulled the barbell up. However, he could not hold the deadlift for more than 2 seconds and dropped it on the floor with a loud bang. "What happened? Did you not eat today, boy?" one of the older men laughed teasingly. "Tsk, you've been slacking off as of late, haven't you? A mountain of a man with 4 arms as thick as Naruto's waist said, "Only 400 kilograms, and you're grunting like you're about to die. I can do biceps curls with that weight." The first time that Izuku had witnessed a scene like that a year ago, he had thought in his mind, no way Naruto would fall for a cheap provocation like that, but the reality couldn't be any more different than his thoughts. The blonde's arteries started pulsing in his neck and he growled at the 4-armed man that laughed at him. "I'm 70 freaking kilos and my tail is half of my weight, but I can lift 5 times my weight, 6 times my weight when I'm in shape." "How much can you lift at 2 or 3 tons? But you're heavier than a hippo, you 4-armed fat ass. You can barely lift your own body weight." Izuku burst into laughter alongside everyone else. It was always a delight to watch Naruto getting riled up and arguing with his mates at the gym. The fox boy seemed to have a gift for making people open up, and his cheerful and fun personality always made for a good time. It also had to be said that Naruto was even more rambunctious than usual. Whenever he went to the gym, it was as if his brain turned off whenever he stepped into a room filled with weights. But then again, it wasn't that unusual. Men and boys in general were like that. Whenever they gathered in large groups, their collective IQ dropped by half, leaving the deadlift ring for someone else to have their turn. Naruto came back to Izuku and plopped himself on the floor without a care. "Ah, today is not my day," he said with a groan and scratched his lower back furiously. "I've also had this itch on my spine for like a week every time I strain myself. Maybe you should get it checked out." Izuku said, "You can't mess around with back injuries, but it doesn't hurt. There's no pain, just an itchy sensation," Naruto said, and frowned at the mental struggle against giving into the urge to rub his lower back again. "But I guess it wouldn't hurt to see Recovery Girl tomorrow at school. Anyway, you've been on a roll lately." Izuku clenched his fist, the muscles of his forearm bulging slightly. "Yeah, even since you made me unlock my hysterical strength, I feel I'm getting stronger at a faster rate than before. I haven't managed to get into that state again, but I've gotten stronger overall. Still, it's nothing compared to you. When will I get strong enough to lift 350 to 400 kilos, he said, and trailed off a bit bummed out. "You knew what you were getting into when you decided to become a pro hero without having a quirk," Naruto said. "If you have time to think about useless stuff and start doubting yourself, you might as well pick up some weights and get back at it. No pain and no gain," he said, and suddenly shouted at the end, startling Izuku. "You're such a dork," Izuku said with a laugh. Working out, getting stronger, and being always encouraged by Naruto had done wonders for his self-confidence. He still had a rather shy personality when interacting with strangers, but with Naruto he had become comfortable enough to even exchange insults and banter. Still, in spite of his words, Izuku stood up, intent on actually listening to what Naruto told him. "He's right. I don't have the leisure to be lazying around and moaning about being weak and quirkless. I'll just have to work harder." He picked up some dumbbells and started his workout routine while Naruto went to the squat rack. Today was a leg day for the blonde. It was a few minutes later that the guys crowded around the deadlifting ring broke into a commotion. "Holy shit, she's gotta have a strength based quirk or something. Damn, that's one strong woman." Their remarks piqued Naruto's interest. Regular women disliked gyms, and even fewer were interested in weightlifting. He had not seen a woman or a girl come to that gym in months. Furthermore, this wasn't exactly the kind of gym that even athletic girls would feel comfortable in. It was filled with burly and muscular men. It stank terribly of sweat, hence why he was always wearing a special gym mask, and the gym apparatus was rather old and rough looking, but Naruto liked it better like that. A messy and stinky gym rather than some luxurious place where the average members would be teens and young people that come to flirt and take selfies to post on social media. Instead of working out standing up from the floor, he went to the deadlifting ring to see what was going on too. By the time he finally managed to shove his way until he got a first row view, the woman in question was preparing to lift the barbell for a second time. Very little could be seen of her upper body due to the large and loose blue hoodie that covered her torso and her head and most of her face as well, but her yoga pants did little to hide her long but strong and muscular legs. Goddamn was the only thing he could say when he saw the dark-skinned woman lift the huge-looking barbell from the ground. It was heavier than a ton and it looked ridiculous compared to her size, because she was even shorter than Naruto by a few centimeters. But when the woman finished her deadlift and went back to her workout, Naruto did not continue to ogle at her. He went back to his leg exercises as well, intent on killing his quads with the leg press machine. It was then that a red-haired boy came to him, his face flushed with excitement. "Kirishima, what are you doing here?" Naruto paused his exercise and asked in surprise, noticing him for the first time. "Dude, I didn't know you went to the gym. Why didn't you tell us? We could have worked out together every day. Also, this place is fucking awesome, man. I can't believe there are still gyms like this in the city." Moments later, the 5 other students came after Kirishima too. "Let me guess, y'all have been following me after classes ended." Bruh's deadpan was so expressive that his classmates could not stop their embarrassment from showing on their faces. "You guys have that much free time on your hands. Don't you train your quirks in your free time, your bodies? Or I don't know, at least study or do your homework." He said, "You're not one to talk about us not doing our homework." Kyoka mumbled, her arms crossed in front of her chest. In all fairness, Naruto's grades were on the lower end in the class ranking. When it came to regular classes like maths, he simply couldn't bring himself to care about stuff like that. He only put in enough effort to get passing grades and not make his parents worry about his schoolwork. Nothing beyond that. All his free time was dedicated to training. Half an hour later, Naruto, Izuku, and the 6 stalkers left the gym after promising Kirishima that he would take him with them whenever they went to the gym. From then on, everyone went their separate ways home, leaving Naruto and Izuku alone. But after a few minutes, the 2 boys had to separate as well. "I think we'll have to meet less often from now on," Naruto said. "Why?" Izuku asked, immediately becoming agitated. "There isn't much I can teach you anymore, to be honest. Now that you unlocked your hysterical strength, what you should focus on is getting stronger. Remember, hysterical strength isn't some miraculous power that comes out of nowhere. It's just the maximum strength of your body. So the stronger you get, the higher your hysterical strength will be too when you break your limits." "But what about martial arts, our bow staff training, and our hand-to-hand combat?" "You can continue to do that at the dojo. Many people at the dojo are stronger than you, so it's not like you won't have sparring partners." Seeing Izuku's downcast expression, Naruto said, "Look, man, don't think I'm giving up on you, but I believe that you need less martial arts training right now and more strength training. If I were you, I'd hit the gym for a while instead of going to the dojo. Besides, you don't need me to babysit you anymore. We can still spar once a week if you want, but from now on you will need to depend on yourself more." He made a small pause before he added, "I have to step up my own training too. There are some guys in class with really amazing quirks. Like Bakugo, like Endeavor's son, or like that girl you couldn't keep your eyes off her chest when we were at the gym. I have to get stronger much faster or I'll be left behind." Izuku's face instantly became beet red. "What are you talking about?" Naruto snickered like a hyena. "Oh, you know that girl with big breasts, a real set of badonkers packing some serious ass." "Shut up," he yelled amidst Naruto's laughter. He was mortified with embarrassment. "I'm going home." Wait, sheesh, I was joking, it wasn't funny." Izuku mumbled, his face still red. "I wasn't even looking at her. She wasn't the prettiest one." Realizing that he had thought out loud, he suddenly became as silent as a grave. "Ho-ho," Naruto chuckled, "I'm surprised you think she wasn't the prettiest. Yaoyorozu is the most popular girl among all freshmen, you know. Let me guess, you like the pink-haired girl more." "It doesn't look like it." "Oh wow, now you really took me by surprise. You think Kyoka was the prettiest?" "The girl with the long ears." Izuku shrugged his shoulders, trying to appear nonchalant, but his burning face and red ears did not help his case. "Relax, man, I'm not making fun of you. Kyoka is pretty cute." "I agree. Do you want me to introduce you to her?" Izuku suddenly waved his hands in front of his face in alarm. No, he yelled, blushing anew. Why not? If you like a girl, why not let her know how you feel?" Naruto had never been shy about telling someone what he felt about them. Quite the opposite, especially in his past life. He had been outspoken about his feelings to the point where he had been obnoxious. "I just met her today and I just thought she was pretty, that's all," he mumbled. "That doesn't mean I want to start anything. Besides, I don't have time for girls and relationships. I have to train to catch up with everyone because I am quirkless. I need to study as well because if I want to transfer to the hero course I need not only strength but good grades as well. I have to get a teacher's recommendation too, and I need to make a good impression at the upcoming fight competition. Besides that, I get it, Naruto yelled to stop him from his crazed muttering. Even after all this time, Izuku had not changed that habit of his. Stopping fooling around, Naruto said seriously. Don't slack off, man. You need to remember that you're not the only one that works hard. People with decent quirks are working hard too, or even harder. You have to give 100% of yourself, no 120% of yourself, if you want to bridge the gap between you and the likes of Bakugo. He has always been your goal, hasn't he? Izuku nodded with conviction. I used to admire him, yes, but for a while now my target has changed. It's not Kakin that I want to surpass anymore. My target is you, Naruto. Naruto did not laugh, nor did he scoff at the boy's words. Instead, he grinned at him confidently and raised his fist in front of him. I trust you, but don't think I'll be waiting for you to catch up. I will keep on moving ahead whether you catch up to me and surpass me or not. It all depends on your effort. Work hard, Izuku. The boys bumped their fists together and grinned at each other for a moment, then they went their separate ways. Time skip. All 18 students of 1A class from UA's hero course were riding a bus on their way to an off-campus training facility. For the first time since starting high school, the aspiring heroes would be taught how to rescue people from natural or man-made disasters. Filled with energy and oozing with pride about their quirks, they were in very high spirits. No one can beat me in the water, Tsuyu said, and let out a frog croak at the end. My zero gravity is perfect for rescuing people trapped inside collapsed buildings, Achiko also said confidently and clenched her fists in expectation. One by one they started bragging about the advantages that their quirks would give them in a rescue operation, but not all of them had advantageous quirks for rescue operations. Man, it must be nice having such useful quirks for rescue. This is the real duty of a hero, to rescue people, Kirishima said wistfully. But your quirk isn't that bad either. Mina tried to cheer him up. My hardening is better for fighting against others rather than rescuing, and even then it's not that flashy. You have to think about your popularity as a hero too. You know, if we're talking about both strong and flashy, it's gotta be Todoroki and Bakugo. Uzumaki's quirk is simple, but he looks like he's going to be super popular as a pro hero too, Mina Ashido said, and looked at a blonde boy that was sleeping in the back of the bus. Bakugo's always mad, so he doesn't look like he'll be popular though, Tsuyu said, and the blonde in question took less than a second to start screaming himself hoarse and threatened to kill everyone. The commotion caused by his bickering classmates also woke Naruto up, maybe because of his ever-growing feeling of tiredness over the past week, or maybe because he was bored at the prospect of training for rescue operations. The fox boy had fallen asleep on the bus, rubbing his eyes and letting out a yawn. He asked the classmate next to him, "We there yet?" The one in question, a plain-looking boy with short blonde hair and a strong-looking tail at his back, answered. "You woke up just in time," Sensei said. "We should arrive shortly." Naruto let out a yawn and raised his hands above his head to stretch, but as his entire body tensed, he suddenly became aware of the fact that his tail was trapped in place, unable to move. Looking to his right, an invisible girl was hugging his fluffy fox tail with both arms and rubbing her face against it while letting out quiet mafu mafu coos. What the heck are you doing? Naruto yelped and suddenly jumped up all the way to the front of the bus, defying the laws of gravity with his inhuman movement. Hagakure's face could not be seen, but everyone could tell how distraught she was from the tragic cry she let out. Numai mafu mafu, the hair on his forearms standing on ends and his fox tail looking like a chainsaw, spoke volumes of what he was feeling at that moment. But that only endeared him even more with the girls. Mina Ashido and Achiko Uraraka in particular had hearts in their eyes. His panicked expression and his porcupine-like fox tail made him look adorable beyond belief. The combination of his father's handsome genes, his fox ears, his fox tail, and his reasonably fit body had created the heartthrob of most teenage girls. Luckily, their homeroom teacher Aizawa came to his rescue before he could be assaulted by the cuteness overload affected girls. They had arrived at their destination, a shipwreck, a landslide, a fire, and so on. It is a training ground that I made with different types of accidents and disasters that heroes are likely to encounter in their line of work. It's called the Unforeseen Simulation Joint, or USJ for short. As the astronaut costumed hero excitedly presented the immense indoor training facility, Naruto involuntarily yawned. It was not that he disrespected the Hero 13 or those that aspired to become like her, it was only that it was not related to what he was going to specialize in once he graduated and became a pro hero. The current position of heroes in today's society was as such. Whether they were just one person or 100 of them, every single hero had to belong to a hero agency, no exceptions. It could even be a one-man agency. All hero agencies were subordinated to the Hero Public Safety Commission, HPSC, which worked in a close relationship with the police force in order to coordinate their combined strength and Fight against crime. Basically, pro heroes was just another name for mercenaries. Heroes were paid by the HPSC based on the jobs that they took and their degree of involvement in accomplishing the task. Therefore, it was entirely up to pro heroes what kind of jobs/contracts they took from the HPSC depending on what they specialized in. For example, someone like Bakugo would rarely take rescue jobs. Those like him would favor arrests, raids, escort missions, etc. Naturally, pro heroes could also earn money by doing other activities on the side. And that is where heroes' popularity came into play. The more popular a hero was, the more sought after would they be by companies to shoot commercials and promote various goods for them. But that was not the only thing. Pro heroes could also sell merchandise with their names on them, figurines molded after themselves, posters, and so on. Some particularly good-looking and popular heroes were even given offers to become actors or fashion models. A successful pro hero was the perfect combination between a showbiz celebrity and a special forces agent. That said, with his quirk, Naruto was not exactly suited for saving people from burning houses, shipwrecks, flooded cities, and so on. His quirk was more predisposed to combat, tracking down villains and capturing them. Today's practical training was not very useful or interesting for M13. Whereas All Might, he was supposed to meet us here. Eraserhead asked, his visage as grumpy as always. Something urgent had intervened. He said he would not be able to attend the class any longer. Aizawa felt the corner of his right eye start twitching. He would have liked to say that he was surprised, but he couldn't. He had totally expected the All Might to ditch his teaching responsibilities on himself at one point or another. Oh well, nothing we can do about it. Let's get things started, he said, trying to keep the annoyance in his voice to a minimum, while 13 started to advise the students about the dangers of using their quirks irresponsibly and their duty as heroes to protect the citizens. Suddenly the power in the entire dome-shaped building was cut. Then a vortex of dark purple light appeared. 1 hour ago, almost 1 month had passed since All Might had taken a teaching position at UA High, and things were going relatively well for the number 1 hero. The key point being on relatively. He was still in the process of getting used to teaching students, but he did not dislike imparting his experience and knowledge to the next generation. Furthermore, it gave him a pretext, a way to hide the reason why he was unable to do as much hero work as before in the present due to his continuously deteriorating body and health. All Might could only do hero work for 3 hours a day. The main thing not going well in his life at the moment was the problem of finding a successor. I can't believe young Togata turned down one. For all, he was starting to become antsy because his power was only growing weaker with every passing day, and he had yet to find anyone in the hero course that fit his criteria. Even after several weeks, many of them have what it takes to become a successful pro hero: strong quirks and marketable personalities. He thought absent-mindedly while his body moved on autopilot to stop a hit-and-run criminal from getting away with his stolen goods. But who among them has the selfless heart of a hero, the will to fight for the innocent and protect them even at the cost of their lives? But All Might also understood that he would probably need a long time to get to know personally all the students in the hero course at UA. There were nearly 100 of them. He had only been a teacher for 3 weeks. I've got to be more patient, All Might told himself. Nonetheless, even as he thought that, he could feel anxiety welling up inside him. It's my fault, really. I have waited for too long to search for a successor. I shouldn't have let it get to this point. But then his mind went back to the 3rd year student Mirio Togata. Despite his broken relationship with Sir Night Eye, his former sidekick, he had never held any ill will towards him, and he had also known about his efforts of grooming Mirio into becoming his successor. What neither All Might nor Sir Night Eye had predicted, however, was the degree of Mirio's selflessness and his desire to save people. I am honored for you to offer me your quirk, All Might. I have always admired and respected you and your efforts. You are my role model, Mirio said, and smiled widely, a smile oh so similar to that of All Might himself. But I'm afraid I can't accept your gift. Why? All Might asked, his disbelief making him stutter. Just what teenage boy in their right mind would turn down what was considered one of the, if not the most powerful quirk in the world? If All Might was surprised by his earlier response, it was nothing compared to his feelings after hearing what Mirio said next. Many thought of my quirk as useless at first. Even my father could not do anything with it, but I persevered, and I've become stronger. Quirk is already strong. Giving it to me will make me become even stronger than now, that is certain. Then why do you not want it? All Might asked. Mirio smiled in return as he said, instead of having one very powerful hero, would it not be better to have 2 of them? Instead of making me stronger, would it not be better for there to be one more person just as strong as I am with 2 heroes as powerful as you are? Would it not be easier to save everyone. His conversation with Togata Mirio had been short but very impactful on All Might. The boy's resolve to help people and even his unshakable confidence that he would one day become just as strong as the #1 hero were inspiring. It looked like Mirio's hero name Lemillion speaking of his wish to save 1 million people was not just empty talk. His desire to save people was so high that he even went as far as to turn down one for all in hopes that that quirk will be used by another person so more people would be saved. I can't deny his words. Young Mirio is already formidable, and I have no doubt that in time he could become the #1 hero even without one for all. If I could find another vessel it would be much better indeed. In his rush to save as many people as possible and stop as many villains as he could, All Might happened to see the large clock tower of a church. It's almost time I should head to work now, he thought. With one powerful jump he launched himself across an entire district as if shot from the barrel of a cannon. But as he was flying over the city a dangerous encounter caught his eye. Listen up heroes, don't come after me any longer. If you do I'm going to kill this family here. A pink-skinned hulking man over 6 meters tall said he was so huge and muscular that he could hold 3 people hostage, with one arm, using only the other one to fight against the heroes. The heroes in question, Kamui Woods and Mount Lady, were standing powerlessly in front of the villain, not knowing what to do. Kamui was all battered and barely standing on his feet, the villain's physical strength being too high for him to contend with. As for Mount Lady, she could not use gigantification out of fear that she would squash the innocent hostages to death too. It was this scene that Izuku had stumbled upon on his way to school. He was not the only bystander that had crowded in that place. Many other people were gawking at the confrontation between the heroes and the villain, and many more were coming. They were all worrying their eyebrows and gnawing at their lips, stressed out for the family's safety, but none of them was thinking about trying to help. For a moment Izuku was rooted in shock at the sight of the huge villain and the 3 hostages in its arm, 2 parents and a young girl. But then, his body moving on autopilot, he started running towards the villain headfirst. Without thinking, he was just about to step out of the crowd and lunged at the villain into the open street when his best friend's words suddenly came to the front of his mind. You've gotten buff. Gym has been doing good to you. You're much stronger now, but don't let it get to your head. No matter how strong you are and how much you train, you will never be stronger than someone born with a power type quirk. Don't forget your limits. If you want to save people you have to stay alive first. You can't save anyone if you get yourself killed. Don't die. Izuku, as he recalled those words, it was as if someone had poured a bucket of ice-cold water on his head. He stopped in his tracks as if he had been petrified. What can I do against this guy? What can I do when someone as strong as Mount Lady and Kamui Woods can't deal with him? When he asked himself that question, it became clear to him why everyone was just watching from the sidelines powerlessly instead of trying to help the heroes in some way. Think, Izuku, think, what can you do in this moment? The boy spoke to himself, his palms starting to become sweaty from the stress and urgency of the situation while he was racking his brains for a solution. Yet another memory from his long training sessions with Naruto sprung at the front of his mind. You'll probably meet many villains that are much stronger than you, but you can still turn the situation around sometimes if you play dirty. Don't hold back from anything, no matter how dirty or dishonest it looks. Throw pepper bombs at them, poke their eyes, kick them in the nuts. Back then Izuku had laughed it off, not taking his words seriously. He had thought that the fox boy was joking around, but at this moment an idea suddenly popped into his mind. Suddenly the situation didn't seem as hopeless as before. He stepped back from the first row of the bystanders and went into the back of the crowd. Then he circled around the group of people until he got to the back of the huge villain. Nobody was paying attention to him because they were all preoccupied with the fate of the 3 hostages in the villain's grasp. Nobody batted an eye when Izuku put down his school backpack and untied the telescopic metal rod that had been strapped to the side of the bag. After he fully extended his metallic bow staff and made his way through the crowd spectating the incident, his arms, his legs, his entire body started to shake. Was it fear? Was it nervousness? Was it excitement? Izuku himself could not define his feelings at that moment. I can do it, he told himself, and his hands clenched harder on his staff for the sake of making sure Izuku did not get himself killed. Naruto had beaten into him the mentality of always being aware of the difference between his strength and that of the enemy. Izuku knew that he was weaker, that even 10 of him would not be enough to defeat that mountain of a man in a fair fight, but his purpose was not to win a fight. His purpose was to save the lives of those 3 hostages. I don't need to defeat the villain. I don't need to play fair. If I can distract the villain for even one moment, it will be enough. The heroes will definitely take advantage of that opening. I will do it. I will save them. I can be a hero too. As he took the first step out of the crowd of bystanders, a rush of adrenaline flooded his system. Thoughts of his safety disappeared from his mind. Thoughts of the difference between his and the villain's strength were snuffed out too, as one simple desire burned brightly in his heart: to save the hostages' lives with a burst of speed. Abnormal For a regular human, Izuku launched himself forth holding his staff from one end like a very big baseball bat. The green-haired boy swung his weapon with every bit of strength he possessed. Florida Smash! Izuku roared as he smashed his staff right into the huge villain's nuts. In the next moment, all males present at the scene showed a terrible wince as the sound of eggs getting squashed had somehow been heard over all the background noises of the city. For a second there, Izuku thought that the villain had muscles even in his balls, because he had not reacted in the least to the hit. But the heroes and the bystanders in front of the villain could see what happened. The villain's eyes rolled in the back of his head, and a second later that mountain of a man fell forward unconscious. Kamui Woods quickly used his quirk to wrestle the hostages free from the unconscious giant's arms lest they were crushed by the enormous weight of his body. A cloud of dust rose in the air as the villain collapsed face first into the street, stiff, unconscious, and foaming at the mouth, being hit in the balls by someone using their hysterical strength. The villain had never stood a chance. Time skip. Gather together and don't move, Aizawa suddenly shouted when a large portal was opened in the middle of the training facility and numerous quirk users started pouring out. 13. Protect the students. Is this like the entrance exam, where the lesson has already started? Kirishima asked. The students were thinking that it was all part of the scenario that the teachers had prepared for the class, but Aizawa's shouts in the next moment made them understand what was the reality. Don't move, those are villains. 13. I'm leaving them in your hands. Yes. As the astronaut costumed hero gave her verbal acknowledgement, Aizawa put on his yellow goggles and started running down the flight of stairs. However, a human-shaped missile zoomed past him with such speed that Aizawa could not even see its shape properly, but it all became clear in the next moment when two of the villains were kicked in the face seemingly at the same time. It was a butterfly kick, a wushu technique, as people gained superhuman physical abilities, martial arts techniques that had previously been used just in movies and in exhibitions due to their lack of practicality in real fights have become much more viable nowadays. With his superhuman dexterity and physical strength, Naruto could pull it off effectively. With no effort, the two villains had been knocked out cold. Uzumaki, Aizawa yelled, I told you to run away, what the hell are you doing here? But Naruto did not stop to listen to his lecture. There's no way you can beat them all alone. I'm here to help you. You can nag at me tomorrow during the class, Sensei, Naruto said leisurely as he sidestepped a hail of bullets coming from the turrets. For hair of a woman, we have more important things to do now. Then a small indentation was left in the ground as the Fox boy abruptly jumped. His burst of speed was so great that to his opponents it appeared as if he had teleported. A brutal lariat smashed into a four-armed man's neck, almost taking his head off. He was not dead, but he was bound to be in a hospital for a long time when another hail of bullets came from the group of attackers. Aizawa got the fright of his life because Naruto was in midair, and it looked like there was no way for him to dodge that, but the blonde's large foxtail twitched in his body, unexpectedly changed its position in the air, successfully avoiding any damage. Uzumaki, stay close, I'll support you from the back. By erasing their quirks, since he could not stop the boy from putting himself in danger, he would make the most out of it. Hi, Naruto replied in joy as he punched someone in the gut with so much strength that the guy collapsed on his knees, unable to breathe and foaming at the mouth. But don't think you're off the hook, Aizawa said in annoyance as he erased the villain fire quirk and then used his scarf to pull one of the flying types down and kick him unconscious. When everything is over, you're going to be in a world of hurt. You hear that? Hi, Naruto sang as he swept someone's legs from underneath with his fox tail, and before they could even fall to the floor he also kicked them in the face, knocking them out. To say that Eraserhead was surprised by his efficient fighting style would be an understatement. While Uzumaki had always shown incredible battle awareness and combat strength at school, training and real battle were completely different. In a real battle, most people could not bring out even 80% of their strength. The way that the other students all tensed up and froze when he told them that villains were attacking had not escaped his notice, but the boy in front of him, it's almost as if he was born on the battlefield. Nevertheless, he did not think too hard about it at that moment. Instead, he focused on supporting him properly and keeping him as safe as possible. He erased the quirks of everyone who tried to attack Naruto from his blind spots and incapacitated those that got too close to him. The teacher and the student fell into a seamless pace. Naruto's excellent hand-to-hand combat prowess and Aizawa's support from the back synergizing perfectly. Nearly 24 villains were knocked unconscious or worse in less than 4 minutes. By the end of it, even Naruto was sweating from exertion, but he was grinning widely, filled with excitement. He had expected 3 or 4 very long hours of boring rescue training, but instead he got to let loose and fight with his entire strength for the first time in his life on Earth. It was liberating. Give me a break. Is that really only a student? They mowed down everyone in a matter of minutes. The white-haired man with his face and body covered by human hands said in irritation, and scratched his neck with his nails. A fine hero seedling indeed makes me want to nip it in the bud. As He said that Shigaraki lunged at the fox boy with his arms outstretched in front of him and a malicious smile hidden behind the severed hand covering his face. "What the fuck is with that guy?" creepy Naruto said with a shiver as he took a look at the severed human hands all over Shigaraki's body. Moreover, he could sense a very dangerous smell coming off from him. Before Shigaraki's hands could touch him, a front kick slipped through his arms and nailed him right in the face. Naruto's leg was longer than Shigaraki's arms. The silver-haired young man was sent flying through the air, the severed hand covering his face being flung off together with a mouthful of spit and blood. "I noticed in the earlier fights too. Oi, are you trying to kill someone? Hold back some of that stupidly high strength or you'll really kill someone at this rate," Aizawa yelled at him from the side when he saw the way Naruto had nearly killed his opponent with one kick. But Naruto did not reply to him. The silver-haired man stood up from the ground as if he had not just been kicked in the face with the strength of a 2-ton heavy hit. Naruto had kicked him in the face with his full power on purpose, yet he was still not down for the count. With the severed hand flung off his face, Shigaraki started to panic and shriek as he covered his face with his own 2 hands. "Nomu, kill them all," he screamed. "Uzumaki dodge," Aizawa yelled and used his quirk to erase the purple monstrosity's ability. However, it was not enough even with Naruto's superhuman reflexes and physical attributes. The muscular creature appeared as little more than a blur. A shockwave exploded forth as Nomu's massive punch slammed into the fox boy's chest. An entire man-made hillside was smashed into smithereens when the boy's body crashed into it, burying him underneath. "Uzumaki!" Aizawa yelled in panic and broke into a run towards the place of the crash, but only a second after turning around, a massive hand grabbed him from the back of his neck and face slammed him into the ground. How was the only thing he could think of at that moment. He had erased that creature's quirk, he was sure of it. Moreover, its quirks would remain unusable for as long as he did not blink. Eraserhead did not need to keep looking at him for that. How was it so strong? How was it so fast? After taking the severed hand from the place where it had been flung off and covering his face with it once again, Shigaraki regained his composure. He was even relaxed enough to let out a bout of hyena-like laughter. "You're probably wondering how is he so strong when you erased his quirk, aren't you?" Shigaraki spoke gloatingly. "I will tell you, Eraserhead, he's the anti-symbol of peace, the bioengineered Nomu. He was created to be as strong and as fast as All Might in front of overwhelming power as his. You might as well be quirkless." As if to further confirm his words, Nomu grabbed Aizawa's left arm and snapped it in half like a twig. The creature was about to grab his right arm as well when unexpectedly a powerful hit smashed into its brain and flung its over 200 kilograms heavy body back as if it had been hit by a truck. "I almost died, you fucking bastard," Naruto rasped as blood flowed from a cut to his temple and from the corner of his mouth. The top of his hero costume was torn to shreds. His Anbu fox-like mask had been smashed to bits as well, and a large blackened bruise could be seen on his chest. If it had not been for his innate fox-like flexibility and agility, that punch from Nomu would have killed him on the spot. But there was one more thing that was different at the boy, something that even the half-unconscious Aizawa took notice of. Next to his bushy golden foxtail there was one more, another tail pushed to the brink of death with one leg in the grave. His body had broken past its limits and his fox quirk awakened. He appeared to have transformed into a ghost as he blurred out from sight, leaving after images behind him. A strong kick into the chin sent the huge creature flying, and a shockwave burst from the impact, lifting clouds of dust into the air. "I'm not done yet," Naruto screamed, and just like Rock Lee from his previous life, with movements that defied the laws of gravity, he jumped after the still floating in mid-air Nomu and smashed his feet into its gut repeatedly 4 times in a row, faster than the spectator's eyes could follow. 6 shurikens with strings attached to them were thrown at the creature, tying it up completely, then swinging his 2 tails to give himself momentum. While in midair, he grabbed onto the tied-up creature and plunged with it headfirst towards the ground. A loud crash reverberated across the entire training facility, and a deep crater appeared in the ground with the muscular purple-skinned creature lying at the bottom of it. In his past life, Naruto had not been able to pull off such a move. However, with the specs of his 2-tailed fox quirk, his body had just reached the requirements for it. His strength and agility not any weaker than that of Rock Lee. After opening the first out of the 8th inner gates, however, as if to reenact the fight between Rock Lee and Gaara's absolute defense from the memories of his previous life, Nomu stood up from the ground. It took Nomu a much longer time to regenerate this time around, but by the time its healing stopped, the creature appeared to be virtually unharmed. Oi, Naruto muttered in disbelief while trying to get his breathing under control. "Not even a scratch, seriously, it's no use, it's no use." Shigaraki laughed maniacally as shock absorption is far beyond anything any of you could deal with. Nomu is the ultimate counter to physical damage. He was made to be as strong as All Might. You're better off gouging his flesh out if he lets you do that at all. Ha ha ha. As Shigaraki said that, Nomu let out a bestial scream and launched itself at Naruto. Stupid jackass, thanks for telling me how to kill it, Naruto thought, and evaded one of Nomu's punches as if he was the Matrix before the awakening of his fox quirk. His bursts of speed for short distances had already been greater than those of Tenya Ida, but after gaining his second tail his agility was on a completely different level. Even so, as a being that was created to counter the number one hero, Nomu was not just as strong and durable as All Might, but its speed was incredible as well. It was only Naruto's martial experience and his animal-like instincts for sensing danger that allowed him to barely weave through the wind-stirring punches of the creature. This isn't good. If it hits me one time, I'm done. I can't keep on like this. He threw 2 smoke grenades on the ground, and a super dense curtain of dark gray smoke burst out, cloaking the entire area into darkness. Sounds of sharp objects splitting the air were heard in the next moment, followed by sounds of metal colliding against hard surfaces. But after a while of dumbly looking around for its enemies, Nomu roared and suddenly clapped its hands. The shockwave generated by that hand clap blew away all the smoke as if it had never existed in the first place. Regardless, Naruto had already accomplished his objective. The entire area was now filled with metallic wires tied from the loops of kunai that had been stabbed into the ground surrounding hills, walls of ruined buildings, and even into the extremely tall ceiling of the dome-shaped training facility. It looked as if Nomu had been surrounded by a spider web, or metallic wires with agility and dexterity far beyond anything a regular human would be capable of. Naruto stood with his feet on one of the extremely thin wires above Nomu. The wire tensed when he suddenly crouched and launched himself at the creature below like an arrow shot from a bow. His scream came out from Nomu as Naruto flashed past him and opened a large gash into its neck, its blood bursting out like out of a shower head. Although his homeroom teacher had suggested him to give up on his kunai, Naruto had never had any intentions of handicapping himself against his enemies. He would hold back when the situation allowed it because he would rather avoid unnecessary killing, but when shit hit the fan he would not hold back from using his full strength and all the means available to him in order to win that horrible cut to the throat that would have killed anyone else. Took Nomu only a few seconds to heal. In a few moments the creature was back to its pristine state, as if it had never been wounded in the first place. Even so, Naruto was not done. Just as he landed on another wire, he once again used himself as an arrow against a bowstring and launched himself at Nomu once more. For the next 2 minutes and a half, making use of his numerous wires, Naruto slashed and stabbed the creature with his blades over 200 times, its putrid blood covering him from head to toes and transforming the entire area into a pool of blood bouncing like a pinball from one wire to another. Naruto had become so incredibly fast and unpredictable that Nomu's underdeveloped mental faculties could not find a way to stop him or counter him. Watching his supposedly ultimate weapon getting massacred like that, Shigaraki screamed, "What are you doing, Nomu? Destroy everything, smash everything to dust!" Reacting to its master's orders, Nomu let out a savage shriek and, raising its arms above its head, it smashed its fists against the ground with its entire strength. A terrible explosion followed and an immense crater appeared in the ground, the shockwave it generated snapping all of Naruto's metallic wires like paper before flinging him into one of the ruined buildings nearby. This time around the fox boy could not get up anymore. He's too strong, he's too durable. His regeneration is beyond belief. If it had been him from his past life, one simple Udama Rasengan would have ground that monster to shreds. I miss having chakra, I miss my sage mode. In my sage mode I could smash this guy into a bloody paste with one punch. For the first time since he was born into this world, Naruto felt acutely the limits of his fox quirk. Although he had awakened his quirk and gotten a second tail, and despite that his strength and agility had skyrocketed compared to before, it was still not enough. Even his ingenious tactics and his mastery over his weaponry proved to be fruitless in front of Nomu's overwhelming power, healing factor, and defense. All his efforts fell short. Sensing the monster slowly getting closer to him, he clenched his teeth in frustration and anger. Do I really have no other choice than to use it? Even as Nomu's enormous hand grabbed him from his head and he started screaming from the pain of having his skull squeezed by the creature's vice-like grip, he still hesitated to use his adamantine sealing chains. I won't use them, I won't put my mother in danger. He was not blind to the situation. He knew that at that rate he was going to get killed, but he could not bear the thought of potentially causing his parents' death by exposing his secret quirk to him. Kushina and Minato, His mom and dad were the most important people in the world for him. The importance of their safety was far beyond that of his own life, but even as Nomu was attempting to crush his skull like a watermelon, Naruto did not give up on resisting. Amidst his screams of pain and agony, his nails transformed into fierce-looking claws, and he started to stab and shred at the muscular arm holding him with reckless abandon. In that life and death moment, his survival instincts kicked in and his body no longer held back any of its strength. With adrenaline coursing through his veins, his claws viciously stabbed into Nomu's forearm and directly severed his arm in half. Naruto's normal human-like blue eyes transformed into the red and slit eyes of a fox, and a third tail burst from his lower back through the already tattered fabric of his top. An animalistic growl came from his throat as he threw himself at the nightmarish creature in front of him. It was the hysterical assault of a cornered beast with Mariko. Mirko was just in the middle of eating a late breakfast when her smartphone vibrated with a notification. Momentarily putting down the carrot she had been munching on, she unlocked her phone and tapped on the notification. Unsurprisingly, it was from the Hero Network app. Urgent: numerous members of the League of Villains attacked USJ in Shizuoka Prefecture. UA high school students in mortal peril, requesting immediate assistance from all pro heroes close by. Her eyes widened in surprise for a moment, but then she grinned in excitement. Without even changing from her pajamas into her hero costume, the rabbit girl jumped through the window of her hotel like a hurricane and threw herself into a mad sprint toward the address indicated on the GPS. She was a few tens of kilometers away from the address. Thinking of how far away she was, she increased her running speed even more, stirring powerful gales of wind in her wake like a racing car. She dearly hoped that the villains weren't all finished. By the time she got there, her legs were itching to give some people a good beating back at USJ. His survival instincts kicked in that life and death moment, and his body no longer held back any of its strength. With adrenaline coursing through his veins, his claws stabbed into Nomu's forearm, directly severing his arm in half. Naruto's normal human-like blue eyes transformed into the red and slit eyes of a fox, and a third tail burst from his lower back through the already tattered fabric of his top. An animalistic growl came from his throat as he threw himself at the nightmarish creature in front of him. It was the hysterical assault of a cornered beast. Obscene amounts of blood splattered everywhere as whole chunks of flesh and muscle were gouged out and ripped off by his deadly claws. It was as if he had become a beast too, guided by his killing instincts. Naruto stabbed his clawed right hand straight into Nomu's chest, piercing its heart and even ripping through its spinal cord, piercing out through the back. That vicious attack would have killed any other being except for Nomu. The creature's chest muscles suddenly contracted and Naruto's arm was trapped within its body. Although he was not fully conscious, instinctually sensing his impending doom, he started stabbing the creature with his other hand desperately, but it was too late to salvage the situation when the bioengineered creature grabbed him by his immobilized arm. Even through his hysteria-induced haze, Naruto understood at that moment it was game over for him. With a savage roar, Nomu pulled out Naruto's arm from its chest, and then holding him by the forearm, the creature smashed him brutally into the ground again and again and again. Even with the increased durability of his second awakening, by the time Nomu finally let go of him, the blonde felt as though every single bone in his body had been broken. His muscles weren't listening to him. It was as if he had been paralyzed. He could only slightly move his head and look up at the creature that was slowly walking towards him with heavy steps. Before going berserk, Naruto had put Nomu on the back foot in their fight only because of his exceptional martial arts prowess and mastery of weapons, in particular the ingenious way in which he had used his metallic wires and kunai like a spider web to bounce around unpredictably like a pinball had allowed him to even almost kill the creature. However, letting himself be led by his feral instincts had been his downfall. Even with his second awakening, between the two of them, Nomu was still physically superior and far more durable. Nomu had been created specifically to counter All Might, the #1 hero. Taking Naruto's martial arts weapons skills and fight IQ out of the equation had reduced him to a frenzied beast, not much different than Nomu, a mindless beast in a battle between two mindless beasts. When no skill and technique were involved, it was only natural for the stronger and more durable beast to win, in this case Nomu. As adrenaline left his system and agonizing pain flooded his senses, Naruto regained his lucidity. Awakening one's quirk was already an extremely rare occurrence. Awakening twice and in quick succession, no less, that was unheard of. It was a miracle, but even miracles had their limits. His body's reserves of energy and stamina had been completely depleted. A third awakening was impossible. Naruto was innately aware of that. He was no longer a Jinchuriki-like In his past life, when he could pull a win out of his ass by letting the demon inside him fight for him, either there was nothing else that he could do anymore. Mom, Dad, as his eyesight started to get blurry, his mind went to his family. I wish I could see them one more time. In his past life, he had been an orphan for the majority of his admittedly short life. Most people hated and shunned him. He had not known the warmth of a mother's hug, the bliss that came with being loved, the joy of having a loving and caring father, or the happiness of belonging to a family. In his current life, he had not appreciated his blessings, not until he had regained the memories, but after his eyes were opened, he had done everything in his power to show his mother and father how much he loved them. Nonetheless, only 1 year had passed since his memories had been awakened. I wish I had had more time with them. 1 year was far from enough. I don't want to die. The thought of never seeing his parents again made him tear up. But even in that tragic moment, Naruto did not think twice about using his chains. He would rather die than cause his parents to become fugitives or to be killed. Finally arriving at his prone form, Nomu grabbed him by the collar of his ruined shirt and lifted him up. One of his arms and more than half of his ribs were broken, and he was in so much pain that he could not even stand on his feet, but he could still move his head. With the last of his strength, Naruto sank his fox-like fangs into Nomu's fingers. The creature shrieked as the boy's strong jaws tore half of its hand apart, forcing it to drop him to the ground. Until the very last moment, Naruto refused to give up. Until he drew his last breath, he would struggle. His entire body was broken, battered, bruised, and he was covered in blood from head to toes. He looked miserable at death's door. Even so, he would fight to survive with everything he had, like a cockroach. When she smashed open the large doors of the immense training facility, Mirko had not known what to expect, but she had definitely not expected to see over 24 villains lying on the ground unconscious or moaning in pain from their injuries. Her attention quickly shifted towards the only standing people she could see, a silver-haired young man with severed human hands grabbing onto his body, and a huge and muscular purple-skinned humanoid that was soaked with blood. I won't make it in time, she thought urgently when she saw the huge creature grabbing a boy from the ground and lifting him up in the air. The boy was also covered in blood from head to toes, and a bone was sticking out of his right arm. He appeared unresponsive, almost as if he was dead, but suddenly the creature let out a shriek as the seemingly dead boy sank his teeth into its hand, crushing and ripping apart the fingers clenched around his shirt. Mirko's eye widened when she saw the way the creature regenerated its torn fingers out of nothing. It only took Nomu 2 seconds to regrow its fingers, but those 2 seconds of delay were all that she needed to close in the distance and come to the boy's rescue. Shigaraki screamed in irritation. Pro heroes are already here, and one of the top 10 too. Arg, this pisses me off. Where's All Might? He was supposed to be here after all the preparations we've made. Scratching his neck with his nails until he almost got bloodied, Shigaraki let out another deranged scream, but then his mood abruptly changed, becoming calm. It's over for us. If one hero has arrived, more are bound to arrive soon. We can't win against a dozen pro heroes. Oh well, it doesn't matter anymore. We'll get another chance. Kurogiri, let's leave. A vortex of dark purple light appeared next to him as the villain in question manifested at his side. Wait, before we leave, Nomu, kill that boy. We couldn't get All Might today, but it wasn't all for naught. A boy like him, we ought to eliminate him before it's too. Shigaraki couldn't finish his words before someone's shin smashed into his face. A human shaped indentation appeared into the outer wall of the training facility as Mirko's kick sent Shigaraki flying for over a dozen meters until he crashed painfully into the wall. Shigaraki Tamura, Kurogiri yelled in panic as he teleported himself to the location where Shigaraki had been blasted off. You've got some guts talking about killing people while I am here, she said, but she could not pursue the two of them because the hulking monstrosity rushed at the prone form of the boy on the ground, faithfully following its master's orders to finish him off. Nomu cocked back its fist, about to smash the boy into a bloody paste, when Mirko's kick landed on the side of its face from the back and made it stumble. The rabbit hero narrowed her eyes when she saw that Nomu was largely unaffected by her kick. The strength of her legs was great enough to easily shatter even reinforced concrete. Fast, she thought, startled when Nomu changed its target and suddenly lunged at her. She successfully dodged the beast's wild swing by ducking down, but its punch had been carrying so much power that the wind pressure accompanying it had still taken Mirko off her feet and flung her into the distance. The rabbit hero was still in midair when Nomu appeared above her, and bringing its two fists together, it smashed them down into its enemy like a hammer. Blood and spittle burst from Mirko's mouth as Nomu's hammer fists smashed into her stomach, and a deafening explosion boomed as her body crashed painfully into the ground, smashing the concrete floor into a crater. Such power, the dark-skinned woman let out a groan and threw up another mouthful of blood as she crawled out of the crater and tried to stand up on her feet. Thanks to her quirk, she could tolerate the insane amount of pain, but that didn't change the fact that her body was in a terrible condition. It was just one hit. She threw up blood again. None of her bones had been broken, but the impact had caused her grievous internal Damaged, the sleeve of her sweatshirt became stained with red as she wiped her mouth with the back of her hand. "I'm not done yet," she said and laughed. "I'm only getting warmed up," she yelled. The strong muscles of her thighs bulged and the ground beneath her feet cracked as she threw herself at Nomu. The creature met her charge with a shriek and punched explosively. The wind pressure carried by its punch raising clouds of dust and debris in the air, but when Nomu's fist crashed against Rumi's body, it lost its equilibrium and stumbled. Its punch went right through her body, or better said, what Nomu had hit was an afterimage lunar ring. She yelled as her roundhouse kick smashed into Nomu's head and actually lifted the creature off its feet, sending it tumbling through the air like a ragdoll. Mirko did not even wait for Nomu to crash into the ground before she launched herself at it. "Once more, Luna Spear," she yelled, and the creature had yet to land when her foot smashed into its spine, sending it flying once more as Nomu was kicked upwards. With a mighty jump, the rabbit hero appeared above the creature and lifting her foot above her head, she yelled as she smashed her heel into Nomu's brain like an axe. Luna arc. Nomu's body made another massive crater into the ground from the vicious axe kick that had smashed it down. The crater became even deeper and a powerful shockwave blasted outwards when Mirko let herself fall from the air and planted both of her feet into the Nomu's head. Just as it was about to get up, it was one of her most powerful finishing moves. Luna fall. By now the floor of the training facility looked as if it had been carpet bombed from above. That's how devastated it was. Bastard. The rabbit girl involuntarily let out a cruise when she saw Nomu walking out of the crater. She could not believe that the creature was still standing. That succession of kicks was one of her most powerful combos, one that she rarely ever got to use on villains. It was so strong that it would have killed anyone else. She had given her all. What Rumi did not know, however, was that Nomu was in fact greatly weakened. Naruto had gouged out and slashed at his flesh more than 200 times using his kunai and metallic wires, and he had even obliterated the creature's heart after his second awakening had made him go berserk. Nomu had lost so much blood that the ground all around was painted red. The creature had regenerated so many times from its deadly wounds that it had run out of stamina. If Nomu had been at its 100%, Mirko would have had an even more terrible time against it. Rabbit-san, she heard a weak and raspy voice calling to her. Turning her head towards the voice, Mirko was surprised to see that the one who was calling her was the same fox boy that had torn apart Nomu's hand by biting on it. He has a shock absorption quirk. Naruto spoke with difficulty. His lungs must have been injured by his broken ribs, because he was gasping for air as if he was suffocating. "There is one kunai in my pouch, left thigh. Take it, cut him down, kill." He coughed and gasped loudly. "Kill the bastard," he said with the last of his strength. Finally devoid of all energy, he lost consciousness due to the large amount of trauma it had suffered, and because of how much stamina it had lost. Nomu took a longer time to regenerate its wounds. This time around, Mirko had used her entire strength when she had axe kicked it in the brain. That heel kick to the brain had almost finished off the creature, and Mirko took advantage of that brief respite to rush at the boy and do as he had asked her. "How did he even fight against this creature and damage it so terribly before I arrived?" she absent-mindedly asked herself when she finally took notice of the huge amount of blood staining the ground and all the places devoid of craters. But she did not waste her time thinking about that. Moving one of the boy's 3 fox tails away, Mirko opened the pouch strapped to his left thigh and grabbed the last kunai remaining. She was about to get up when she noticed that he also had a smoke grenade hanging from his belt. It looked dented and its pin was bent from when Nomu had repeated smashed Naruto into the ground, but miraculously it had not gone off. This could be useful, she thought as she grabbed the smoke grenade from his belt too. Turning around, she noticed that Nomu had just about finished regenerating all of its wounds. She hurriedly pulled out the bent pin of the smoke grenade and tossed it at the feet of the creature. A dense cloud of black smoke burst from the grenade, obscuring the creature's sight. Having dealt with Naruto using the same tactic only a few minutes before, Nomu reacted right away and smashed its palms together into a clap with such strength that the shockwave it generated blasted apart the smoke like a tornado. However, clapping its hands had left Nomu wide open to her attack. As an experienced hand-to-hand combat specialist, Mirko was not one to miss capitalizing on such an opportunity. In a burst of speed that made her invisible to the naked eye, Mirko appeared behind Nomu's back like a ghost and threw herself at its head. But this time around she did not smash the beast with her explosive kicks. Instead, she jumped with her knees on Nomu's shoulders, and her exceptionally strong thighs suddenly gripped its head tightly. Letting a battle cry of exertion, Mirko suddenly twisted her body and snapped Nomu's head to the back. Suspecting that even having its neck twisted would not be enough to put down the beast for good, Mirko also grabbed the handle of the kunai with both hands and stabbed downwards with her entire strength straight into the creature's exposed brain to the hilt. The bestial screams of agony coming from the creature's throat had almost made Mirko go deaf, but she did not back down. She continued to bury the kunai's blade into Nomu's brain relentlessly, mercilessly. Blood burst out like a geyser and splattered her clothes, face, hair and ears every time she stabbed the creature's brain. At that moment she looked like a deranged psychopath. Eventually Nomu's screams died down and its violently shaking and quivering body came to a stop. At last the creature was dead. Right as Nomu's lifeless body collapsed, a large group of pro heroes that responded to the emergency summons arrived. Mirko finally allowed herself to relax and blew out a sigh of relief. The rabbit hero was the kind of strong-willed woman that never backed down from a fight, especially when innocent people's lives were on the line. That had been the case in the present as well. She had put her own life at risk and fought with everything she had against the creature, but she could not deny how exhausted and wounded her body was. Nomu had been the strongest villain she had ever fought against. This had been the toughest fight of her entire life. She was relieved that other heroes have arrived at the scene to rescue the rest of the students. I'm beat, she said. However, before she could rest, she yelled to the heroes that had just arrived, "Hey you there, we need an ambulance ASAP. One of the students is grievously injured." Getting a verbal acknowledgement from them, she finally climbed down from the creature's corpse. As she walked away, she felt as though she had lead in her feet. Coming to the unconscious blonde boy on the ground, she plopped herself down next to him and leaned back on her hands, letting her long legs stretch. Although she knew that the fox boy could not hear her, Mirko said, "Thanks for the help, kid. I couldn't have done it without you." Then that fierce and confident smile on her face, the wide grin that she had become known for, softened when she looked at the grievous wounds he had suffered, particularly at the broken bones sticking out of his right arm. What a tough kid, didn't give up until the very end, she murmured when she recalled how the boy had used his teeth to tear off Nomu's hand and how he had struggled to tell her to use his knife despite that he could not even breathe well, ultimately driving himself unconscious. "Don't you dare die on me, boy," Mirko said and patted him once on the head. "You have to live. You're gonna be one hell of a pro hero once you graduate. Don't give up, live." Time skip. Although he had never been hospitalized in his current life, Naruto was more than familiar with a hospital's smell given how many times he had gotten injured in his past life, but the smell of antiseptic far was more powerful than he remembered it. It stung his nose so badly that it woke him up from his slumber. Opening his eyes, he tried to stretch his arms out of habit, only to find himself unable to move his upper body at all. It was then that it finally came back to him, the life and death battle against a seemingly unkillable bioengineered creature and his brutal defeat at its hands. I messed up. He had let the feral instincts of his quirk take control over his actions, and now he was paying the price for it. His head and the rest of his upper body were all immobilized in casts and bandages. "I survived. I'm lucky, so lucky." With how powerful Nomu had been, Naruto thanked God that he had not been hit directly by one of its punches. All of his wounds came mostly from indirect hits and from being smashed into the ground. He had never been afraid of death in his previous life, but it was different this time around. His desire to live burned brightly in his chest because he had a family, the very thing that he had always wanted. Because of that, feelings of gratefulness flooded his being when he thought of the person that had come to his rescue. He could not remember much about her due to the critical condition he had been in back then, but the appearance of the person in question was hardly forgettable. Long white hair, dark skin, and a pair of long rabbit ears. That was all that he could remember about her appearance, but now that he could think clearly, those few things were more than enough for him to realize just who had been the one to save him, the rabbit hero Mirko. He was not a fanboy like his best friend Midoriya Izuku, but he was still familiar with the popular heroes. There was virtually nobody in the entirety of Japan that did not know who were the top 10 heroes. Thinking about Nomu and the rabbit hero, tiredness caught up to him again due to his quirk awakening 2 times in a row, and due to the grievous wounds that he had sustained. His energy levels were at an all-time low. He fell back asleep. 1 student killed, 1 professor, and 2 students hospitalized in critical condition. Why did the villains target you? Hi, what was All Might doing? Where was the #1 hero when the villains attacked? Mass media and social media platforms had been taken by a storm. While heroes losing their lives against villains was not a daily occurrence, it did happen every now and then, so people weren't that shocked whenever a less-known hero was announced dead. Every few months there would be news of some heroes dying in the line of duty. That risk was part of the job as a hero. However, students being targeted by a large group of villains and dying was not something that happened often. Whenever children were killed by villains, it made the population boil. 1 week after the League of Villains attack on UA High at the USJ training facility, Naruto was finally discharged from the hospital. Normally Recovery Girl's quirk should have put him back on his feet much faster than that, but his body's reserves of stamina had been completely drained due to his quirk awakening 2 times in a row. Because of that, it had taken him much longer to regain his vitality, and for Recovery Girl to be able to use her quirk on him now that he was healed, Naruto was glad to finally shed the gyps casts around his arms and remove the bandages that had made him look like a mummy as his mother drove him home from the hospital. Naruto browsed the internet on a tablet. Until then he had been using an old flip phone, not because his parents would not buy him something better. Kushina and Minato absolutely doted on their son ever since he had changed his behavior a year ago, but because he had not wanted a fancy phone, he knew he was very careless and prone to breaking fragile stuff. That said, Naruto had become a national celebrity, and not only. After the USJ incident, he was all that people ever talked about ever since. That day his fanbase had grown so crazily that dozens of people were sending him emails, physical letters, and gifts every day. The brand new tablet that he was using currently had been a gift from one of his fans too. The reason for Naruto's newfound stardom was that someone had leaked a video of the confrontation between the League of Villains and the UA High students at the unforeseen simulation joint facility. How had they managed to film it? Naruto had no clue, but because of that video the USJ incident had gotten way more media coverage than normal. It was not only Naruto whose fame had exploded overnight. Eraserhead, a hero who the masses had never even heard about before, had become famous too due to his performance against the large groups of villains and due to his powerful quirk. Nevertheless, the Fox Boys' performance had been the most spectacular and eye-catching. Green Day stan. Holy shit, did you guys see that? Garo 97. I've only ever heard rumors about Quirk's awakening, but to see it happening and twice in a row. Jiro, Poggers Gliblip, PogChamp Yukino-chan. He's so dreamy, those cute fox ears and those fluffy fox tails. Kia, and he's so cool and strong too. What I wouldn't do to have a boyfriend like that. Chocolate Shiar. STF you woman, no one asked you anything. Who the fuck are you to butt and ain't an ass lover? The hell, who shat in your cereal? Yusha boy. What's wrong with that dude? Chadzilla. Chocolate Shiar, and who the fuck are you, cunt? I tried to say your name out loud and my furniture started floating. Me no like vegans. Holy shit, you fucking killed him, dude. LOL, potato is life. Chadzilla, damn man, don't rise to the bait. Don't mind that idiot, he's just a typical incel. Naruto snorted as he read the comments to the video posted on the largest social media platform in the country, CrossChat. The internet was as wild and unpredictable as always. Under the mask of anonymity, people often removed all kinds of filters from their mouths. Slime for dinner. I never thought a fox quirk could be so effing strong. Your senpai. I think it's less about his quirk and more about his actual skills. Look at 1437, how he stands on those thin wires perfectly straight, and his accuracy when jumping from one wire onto another while also slashing that creature with his knives. It's incredible. His skills with his blades, the degree of control he has over his body, and his martial arts are unreal. This isn't just talent, only God knows how much he must have trained to become that good. Kenichi Reiju. For real, look at 1030, dude is freaking defying gravity, then kicks into that Nomu's gut were nasty, and how he smashed it into the ground after that head first. The hell was with that? It's like a move out of a manga. Any other villain would have probably been killed. Grandpa Bruce Lee. I'm 45 years old and I have a 3x strength enhancing quirk. I've trained Sanda, Chinese mixed martial arts, pretty much my whole life, but I can't even imagine pulling off the moves he did. That boy is a freak. Mafu Crush. Hey guys, I've actually been classmates with Kurama in junior high. Ask me anything. Indian cash cow. Yeah sure, and I'm Queen Elizabeth's grandson / S. Mafu Crush. You don't believe me? Here is proof. www. I filmed this video with my own phone a few months ago at school. He knocked out someone with a strong explosion quirk using just a stone kamihami. Fake? No way, that shit's real. Mafu Crush. It's not fake, mark my words. If Kurama doesn't become a top 10 hero after he graduates, I'll eat my shoes. Booty Connoisseur 69. LMAO scrubs, what's with this hard on y'all have for that Fox loser? He still got his ass handed to him, all that fancy martial arts and shit just to get wrecked in the end. Nomu smashed him like the Hulk smashed Loki in that Avengers movie. The real shit starts at 1800 hours. Mirakucha on HNNNG, my rabbit goddess, she's the real deal, so strong and so fucking sexy I'd suck a fart out of that big fat ass. Inushiba 2005. Mommy sit on my face, suffocate me. Harem King Akira. I bet Mirko's the kind of girl to tie you to the bed and ride the fuck out of you until you're milk dry on Abirena. Ayo, the horde has awakened. Go to horny jail, all of you. Moderator message. User Booty Connoisseur 69 has been muted for 24 hours. Please keep the conversation civil. Moderator message. User Inushiba 2005 has been muted for 24 hours. Please keep the conversation civil. Moderator message. User Harem King Akira has been muted for 24 hours. Please keep the conversation civil. Your senpai. There. Is it? The Purge. Ha 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 ha. Nina loves rain. Mods doing God's work. Thank you. Allahu Snack Bar. Raffle Thirsty Pervs. Indian Cash Cow. Big Oof. Kenichi Reiju. LMAO got their ass. Lilo El Ho. I'm dying. Lolalol. In just 1 week, the video of the League of Villains attack on USJ had reached nearly 80 million views. At this point it was not just a national sensation, it had gone viral worldwide, with so many people from all over the world participating in the comment section. It was pandemonium. The moderators were having a hard time containing the thirst of the perverts hornying over the rabbit hero or the baiting comments of the haters. Naruto had always liked showing off, especially in his current life, and he had always craved people's acknowledgement. That had been the case in his past life as well. Logically, the current situation should have made him feel like he was on cloud nine. However, even as his name gained notoriety and he was hailed and praised for the heroic self-sacrificing and relentless spirit that he had shown in his battle against Nomu, Naruto could not bring himself to feel happy. The first guy that got muted is right. I lost badly, he thought as turned off the tablet and started looking at the passing scenery through the window of the car. If it hadn't been for Mirko coming to my rescue, I would have been killed. His expression further darkened at the reminder of what else had happened at USJ. The fact that one of his classmates had been killed. I can't believe Mineta died for the first time in his current life. One of his acquaintances had lost their life violently. He and Mineta had not been close. They had been classmates for less than a month, and Naruto had not spent that much time bonding with his new classmates because he had been more focused on training Izuku into the ground to unlock his hysterical strength. However, to say that he did not feel anything about the tiny boy's death would be a big lie. Mineta Minoru had been just a 15-year-old boy, a young boy with many dreams and aspirations, someone who had hoped to become a pro hero one day. A young boy's life had ended just like that, and for what was the purpose of what they've done? The more he thought about it, the angrier he was becoming. Reacting to his turbulent emotions, his blue eyes momentarily flashed with a crimson color and his fingernails started to sharpen, looking as though they were about to start growing into claws. But he calmed down instantly when he sensed his mother looking at him through the rearview mirror. Closing his eyes, he let out a long breath and rested his head against the backrest. The last thing he wanted at that moment was to make his mother worry for him. It had to be said that while Naruto's quirk awakening twice in a row had gone viral worldwide because it was unprecedented, the news regarding Mineta Minoru's death had not been swept under the rug. Either on most social media platforms, tens of thousands of people had started to sign a petition through which they were requesting for the villains that had attacked USJ to be given the death penalty. People's outrage at the fact that a young and innocent boy had been killed mercilessly had also been the reason why hardly anyone was speaking against the violent way in which Naruto had fought against Nomu by slashing and gouging its flesh out over 200 times, or against the brutal way in which the rabbit hero had killed the creature by snapping its neck and repeatedly stabbing its brain with a kunai. In fact, with her amazing performance against Nomu, Maruko's popularity had gone off the charts. The rabbit hero had always been popular. She was a top 10 hero for a reason, but the formidable strength she had shown at USJ, coupled with her exotic looks and her fit and sexy body, had transformed her into a massive star, her fandom starting to spread even beyond the borders of Japan. Later that night, Naruto could not sleep. His mind was filled with all sorts of thoughts. The thing at the front of his mind was the discussion he had had with his mother once they arrived home after being discharged from the hospital. Why did you not use your other quirk, Naruto? Her cries still resounded in his ears, and when he told her that he would rather die than endanger his parents, a slap to the face had twisted his head to the side. Sitting on the porch outside of his house, Naruto rubbed his left cheek absent-mindedly while looking at the full moon shining brightly in the night sky. He could not remember when was the last time his mother had slapped him, or if he had ever been slapped by his parents at all. Kushina and Minato had never been strict with him. That was part of the reason why, before awakening the memories of his past life, Naruto had been a disrespectful brat towards his parents. Therefore, when his mother hit him for the first time in his recent memory, he was momentarily shocked. He had barely felt any physical pain from the slap, but the act itself had startled him. If you die, how do you think that your father and I will continue to live on without you? As she said those words, Kushina took him in her arms and started to cry into the crook of his neck. Don't throw away your life lightly, Naruto. You are my only child, my beloved child. I had almost lost you twice before. I can't bear it, I can't. Naruto's eyes became misty just at the memory of his mother's pain cries. Is being a hero worth it? He asked himself. Only my first month of school and I've already nearly died once. I made mom cry. As a pro hero facing all sorts of violent criminals with superpowers, he was bound to get hurt regularly. Dying in the line of duty one day was not out of question either. Not all pro heroes got the chance to reach the age of retirement. Is it worth it to risk my life and make my parents suffer just for the sake of becoming famous and rich? The cool air of the night made his thought process especially clear. At that moment, the villains attacked USJ because of All Might. They killed Mineta just so they could break All Might's pride as the symbol of peace. As he thought about that, another question appeared at the front of his mind. What if one day some villains would do the same to me as well? What if they decided to target my family just so they could get back at me? He scratched at his messy locks. of hair with both hands and groaned in frustration. Giving up on his future career as a pro hero was not a pleasant thought because fighting was what he was the best at. He had never liked studying. He was not like his friend Izuku, who could easily pursue a career in a regular field and get a well-paid office job. However, even as he was stressing about what to do next, one thing was clear in his mind. He could not keep letting things go on like, until then I will transfer away from the hero course. At the end of the semester, Naruto had even refused to use his adamantine sealing chains against Nomu, despite knowing that he was going to die solely because he did not want to put his parents in danger. Compared to that, giving up on becoming a pro hero was nothing. I'll find something else to do. I could join a martial arts club and go to karate or taekwondo competitions, or I could join an MMA promotion and fight against other mutant quirk users in the octagon once I become an MMA world champion. I'll get plenty of money and fame. It was just a thought, a rough idea for his future plans. Naturally, he would give it more thought in the following years. He had started high school only a month ago, so he still had plenty of time to figure out what to do in the future now that he had decided to not become a pro hero anymore. Besides, it won't come out as weird that I lost interest in being a hero. Their homeroom teacher had been hospitalized. Uzumaki Naruto had been in a coma. Azuitsuyu's torso had been disfigured by a shark villain's vicious bites, and Mineta Minoru had been killed. The tragic event had come out as a shock for many of the students of UA High. As a result of that, just in one class alone, Koji Koda, Rakido Sato and Hagakure Toru's parents had already requested the principal of UA to transfer their children to another school. Many other parents of children from other classes were also thinking about removing their children from UA High. 2 time skip. It's the Fox Quirk Boy. Someone let out a loud shout, and Naruto suddenly found himself surrounded by 2 dozens of people, all pointing their cameras and microphones at him. It was the first day he was coming to school after being discharged from the hospital, and it looked like the mass media had somehow gotten wind of it. Dozens of reporters had been camping in front of UA High's gates since early morning, waiting for his arrival. Trying to squeeze through the crowd and enter the school unnoticed was impossible because his 3 foxtails stood out too much. In that morning alone, nearly 20 people had already stopped him while he was walking from home to school on the streets, asking for an autograph or to shake his hand or take a selfie together with him. It was not the first time Naruto had become famous in his past life. He had been recognized as a hero thanks to how many times he had saved and protected his village. But even at the peak of his popularity in his previous life, he had never experienced anything like in the present. He had never been accosted in the streets, and he had never seen people acting as if they were crazy about taking a photo with them. His current fame was surreal. This is Nippon TV channel. Tell us your thoughts about UA High. One of the reporters shouted out loud to make herself heard over the clamor of the crowd. Thoughts of Naruto began to say, but his mind had suddenly become blank. He had never been interviewed before, and he had never experienced interacting with the kind of maniacs that mass media people could become when they smelled a big scoop. But his stammering was quickly drowned by other reporters and journalists, who also began screaming their questions at the top of their lungs. A student had been killed by the League of Villains, but UA High decided to still hold the sports festival as if nothing had happened. What do you have to say about it? I just got out of the hospital. I don't know, Naruto answered, gradually starting to regain his wits. You were fighting at USJ against that villain as if you were trying to kill him. You have also been involved with the Sludge Villain who ended up dying last year. What is the reason behind your violent actions? Now listen here, they attacked me, not the other way around. I was fighting for my life, he began to say, but another reporter cut him off. So it's okay to kill other people, it was self-defense. What would you have done in my place, jackass? Naruto snapped back at him, getting angry at how those reporters were trying to make him look as if he was a deranged psychopath. The rabbit hero expressed her admiration for you in a recent interview. What kind of relationship is there between the two of you? A reporter from a tabloid magazine asked her question, momentarily throwing him off. What Naruto himself had watched that interview too, but there was nothing in her words that could be interpreted as the two of them having a thing. The rabbit hero merely expressed her appreciation for how tough and brave he had been, saying that if it had not been for Naruto stalling Nomu until she arrived, Mineta Minoru would have not been the only casualty. 3 of your classmates have already quit the hero course. Are you thinking about doing the same? Someone else asked. Many pro heroes have their eyes on you. Who are you going to join for your internship? Scouts from hero agencies from USA, Russia, and China had come to Japan over the past few days to watch the UA High Sports Festival. It's safe to say they are here for you. Will you participate? Your fox quirk has awakened 2 times in a row. It's unprecedented. What is your secret? The reporters were yelling their questions so fast that he did not have time to answer any of them. 10 minutes later, an irate and exhausted Naruto stumbled into the wanted classroom after running away from the reporters. Thank God for the UA barrier, fortunately, given that he was already late to class and that the professor was inside too. It was an English class. The scene where the people crowded around him did not repeat with his classmates as well, but he still spent the rest of the period with most of them sneaking glances or openly staring at him. When the bell signaling the end of the class rang, Naruto braced himself for the upcoming onslaught of questions. His expectations were spot on. Seeing as more than half of his classmates flocked to him groaning, he let his head fall on the desk and covered his head with his hands and his tails in defeat. If it was under different circumstances, he would have gladly basked in the attention and awe of his classmates. However, the death of Mineta Minoru had cast a shadow over his heart, and his worry for his parents' safety made his anxiety level go off the charts. Playing around and showing off was the last thing on his mind at that moment. Holy shit, dude, I knew you could fight from our combat training classes, but damn, you and Aizawa-sensei took out like 40 villains without even breaking a sweat, and then the way you kicked that monster in the air and slammed it headfirst into the ground, arg, so damn cool, Kirishima said in excitement. That thing you did with your knives and your wires was way too awesome. I've never seen anything like it. Kaminari also said, Uzumaki-san, I have a request, please let me train together with you from now on. Ojiro also said, unlike his regular behavior, the rather plain-looking boy had stars in his eyes. In his mind, he and Naruto were alike. They both had tails, and they were skilled in martial arts as well. Naruto's strength and flashiness were a huge inspiration for him. It wasn't only the guys that were fanboying over him, his female classmates were similarly excited. Kyoka and Uraraka were gushing as they showed him various posts about him on social media, and Mina Ashido even went as far as to throw an arm around his neck and mash her cheek against his while taking a selfie with him, posting that selfie right away on her cross-chat profile. She got several hundred likes in less than 2 minutes. To everyone's surprise, Todoroki Shoto also came to Naruto's desk and called out his name. Uzumaki, what is it? Naruto asked as he turned to look at him. The UA Sports Festival happens every year. It's a national event that all pro heroes are watching with attention. In some ways, our future career depends on how well we will perform at the festival. Raising his arm in front of him, he clenched his hand into a fist while saying, that's the stage where I am going to beat you. That is where I will show everyone that I am the best. His words shattered the good mood from before. That's my line, you half bastard. Bakugo suddenly screamed from the other end of the classroom and stomped his feet as he approached Naruto's desk, all the while his palms crackling with tiny explosions. Don't just go spouting your lame-ass declarations of war in front of me. Uzumaki, his mind now turning to glare murderously at Naruto, he said, his eyes almost spewing flames. The humiliation from the junior high and the defeat during the combat training classes, I will wash them all away at the sports festival. You hear me? I'm gonna crush your face, you smug bastard. Naruto let out a sigh as he stood up from his seat. You're both gonna be disappointed. I'm not participating in this festival. Grabbing his backpack, he put his hands in the pockets of his pants and walked towards the door. Stop right there, you furry bastard, Bakugo screamed as he grabbed Naruto by his elbow and got into his face. Don't you dare run away from me. Yanking his arm free from his grasp, Naruto said, what I do is none of your business. I'm not just not participating in the festival, I'm also going to transfer to another school. Being a hero, I don't care about that anymore, so bugger off. At his words, the class sank into silence, but then they all cried out, what? You've gotta be joking. The one who reacted the worst among everyone was none other than Bakugo. Are you fucking kidding me? He screamed and grabbed Naruto by the collar of his uniform with both of his hands. The hell is your problem, dude? What's with that overreaction anyway? What does it matter to you what I do? Naruto said and tried to pry Bakugo's hands off his shirt. Are you just gonna run away like a coward? You just gonna scurry away like a scared little bitch? Huh? Bakugo yelled. Naruto suddenly shoved Bakugo away and the boy went flying backwards and slammed into the wall as if he had been hit by a car. Naruto had not intended to push him that hard, but he was still not fully aware of how much his strength had increased after his Fox Quirks 2 awakenings. I beat up dozens of villains into submission and then fought against that creature with my life on the line. You think I'm scared of some villains? Are you stupid? Then why are you running away? Why are you giving up? Bakugo screamed incensed. How was he supposed to defeat Naruto? If he ran away, he wanted to surpass him fair and square. He wanted to avenge his losses and show everyone that he was the best. He wanted to become the undisputed number one. It's not about giving up, you idiot. Think, why did the League of Villains attack us? I'll tell you why. It's because of All Might. Naruto shouted back at him. Hey, you're going too far. Siro said. How is it fair to blame it on All Might? It had nothing to do with him. Tenya Ida said, the wild gestures he was making with his hands showing how indignant he was. Oh really? Now what did the villains do when they couldn't find All Might? They took their anger and frustration on us. Turning towards Bakugo, he continued, say that I become strong in the future, say I become the #1 hero and invincible fighter. But what about my parents? What if just like it had happened with us at the USJ, knowing that they can't do anything to me? The villains attacked my family. When he said that, his murmuring classmates became silent. Even Bakugo did not know what to say at that. Mineta was killed only a week ago, and Tsuyu was mauled by a shark villain even though she recuperated. Her psychologist still hasn't cleared her to come to school yet. Now imagine if something like that happened to your family. Although a week had already passed since Mineta Minoru's death, when he brought it up his classmates' faces became downcast at the mention of it. Maybe you don't care if your parents get killed or if your siblings end up handicapped after a villain attack. Maybe you're just a selfish shithead who only thinks about becoming the no one hero. Well, good for you, Godspeed, but don't expect me to be like you. All my family is everything to me. Most teenagers were seldom that open about their feelings and even more rarely admitted that they loved their parents at that age. Boys especially would be too embarrassed to say anything like that, but Naruto was not exactly a teenager mentally. Furthermore, after living in his past life as an orphan, and knowing how much it hurt to be lonely and not have a family, his mother and father in his current life had become the most important thing in the world for him. Now that Bakugo no longer tried to stop him, he adjusted the straps of his backpack and walked out of the classroom, but an unexpected voice stopped him in his tracks. For how mature you seem to be, you are surprisingly naive, Uzumaki-san. It was Momo Yaoyorozu. Even if you want to give up on becoming a pro hero, you can never go back to being a normal person. It's too late for you to do that. Seeing that Naruto did not retort with anything right away, she continued, among the villains that attacked us at USJ, one of them had a quirk that allows him to create video cameras on any part of his body. He was brought along not to fight, but to film the scene of All Might's death firsthand. The League of Villains wanted to show the world how they killed the symbol of peace, but instead of that video ended up showing how powerful the rabbit hero was and how formidable a mere teenager with a simple fox quirk could be. The villain showed that video to the police as proof that he was innocent, that he had not attacked anyone at all, so he got away with only some charges of trespassing private property instead of being charged with attempted murder and battery. What's your point? Naruto said. It's unknown how it had gotten leaked to the public, but as of now that video has already gotten over 100 million views and it's been only a little over a week. I'm sure it'll pass the 1 billion mark by the end of the year easily. You've become incredibly famous. It's not just Japan, even the foreigners, the whole world knows about you whether you like it or not. In everyone's eyes you're a hero. You risked your life against that bioengineered creature and kept it busy. As the rabbit hero said, if it hadn't been for you that thing would have probably gone after the rest of us. Mineta wouldn't have been the only casualty, to say the least. As she was speaking, her voice became more and more confident. Even if you give up on becoming a pro, you will never stop being a target for the villains. Even if you want to live a normal life, it's impossible for you because you've become too well known, too famous. People won't stop talking about you even 20 years later, because when your quirk awakened 2 times in a row, you created history. A few years from now, children will even learn in school about you and your quirk, she said, triumph settling on her face when she saw the way Naruto's expression changed as realization dawned on him. So distracted he was by Momo Yaoyorozu's words that Naruto did not even remember how he had gotten home that day. He did not remember what he ate for dinner, and he did not remember his mom's worried face when she saw how distraught he appeared to be that night. He looked at the ceiling and the walls of his room for hours, unable to fall asleep due to the intense feelings of anxiety eating at him. That video from the USJ had blown up too much. It had become too big. His popularity had grown too much, and it was only going to get even bigger. He could see the truth in Yaoyorozu's words. Even if he wanted to go back to living a normal life, it was too late now. In the first place, his appearance was simply too eye-catching. A pair of fox ears on his head and 3 very large golden fox tails at his back. There was no real way for him to disguise himself. It was in the wee hours of the morning that he finally fell asleep. Still, even in his sleep, Naruto could not find peace. Bad dreams were haunting him. Naruto-chan, wake up, you're running late, came Kushina's voice. Although he did not wake up right away, the way that his fox ears flinched and moved towards the noise betrayed the fact that he had heard her. Kushina involuntarily smiled at the sight. Her son was simply too adorable. She sat down on the edge of the bed and put her hand on his head, caressing his hair and gently scratching at the base of his fluffy ears. Seeing as he still refused to wake up, she started to get annoyed. Wake up already, you lazy bum, she said as she stretched his cheeks with her fingers. It's the day of the UA Sports Festival. You ought to get to school on time. Your friend Izuku-kun is waiting for you in the living room. Sitting up with difficulty, Naruto buried his face in his palms. His stress and anxiety had kept him awake all night. He had barely slept 3 hours. Do I really have to go? He whined like a little kid. You're such a baby sometimes, I swear to God, Kushina complained, but she did not really mean it. But I'm serious, I don't want to go. I don't want to participate in this festival. Kushina took his hand in hers and asked, why? What happened? He was her son. Nobody else knew him better than her. His face was like an open book for her. She could see that something was weighing heavily on his mind. I don't want to be a hero anymore, but I can't walk away from it either. I don't know what to do. Naruto began to say, and under his mother's gentle gaze he started getting off everything from just his fear for her and his father's safety, his desire to keep them safe. Momo Yaoyorozu's words about him having become too famous to ever go back to being a regular person and so on and so forth. That classmate of yours was right for how mature you're trying to act, you're such a dummy sometimes, she said, and ruffled his spiky hair with her hand. Do you think we haven't thought about the risks when we decided to support you in becoming a pro hero? Naruto's eyes widened at her words. Sure, we haven't expected you to become so popular so quickly, but I've never had a shred of doubt in mind that you would become a pro hero after graduating from UA High. Your father and I have long since made peace with the idea that your profession will come along with risks. His fox ears sagged and he looked at his lap as he said, but I don't want to put you in danger. I don't care about some stupid pro hero career if you get hurt. I don't care about being famous. None of that matters if you and Dad are not here. Taking off her slippers, Kushina climbed into bed and sat down next to him before wrapping her arms around him. Naruto was more than happy to reciprocate, hugging her back and burying his face into her long red hair. Under other circumstances she would have teased him a little about being such a mama's boy, but she understood that all that he needed at that moment was his mother's support and affection. They spent a few moments in silence, with her gently caressing the back of his head as she embraced him. Eventually Kushina broke the hug and said, I'm happy you care about your family that much, but you don't need to worry about your parents. Naruto, as she said those words, 4 golden chains slithered out from underneath her sweater and wiggled slowly around them. Unlike a certain dumbass in this room, I won't hesitate to use my quirk to defend myself should a villain attack me. Besides, did you forget who taught you how to fight? Young man, you're underestimating your parents a little too much. You must have forgotten I'm a super mom, Kushina said, half seriously half jokingly. Mom, that was so corny. Shut up, Kushina said, a hint of red appearing in her cheeks. Retrieving her golden chains into her body, she fake coughed into her fist before saying, but I'm serious. If push comes to shove, I'll show no mercy to any villain that tried to attack us. I am more than capable of protecting myself and your father too. But wasn't your quirk supposed to be secret? Aren't you afraid that your old enemy will find out about it? We will cross that bridge when we get to it, Kushina said simply. Let me ask you a question. Are you afraid of villains? I'm not, but you and Dad. Stop right there, Kushina cut him off. So you aren't afraid of fighting against villains, right? Of course I'm not, he said, as if it was the most obvious thing in the world. Why would I be getting to beat up people and even getting paid for it? Hell yeah, what kind of hero says such words? Mother and son burst into laughter, but Kushina soon became serious again and said, you don't know how it was around 20 years ago. You weren't even born back then, but I do. Hero agencies existed at that time as well, but villains didn't seem to care. Store and highway robberies took place every day, beatings, killings, kidnappings. It was a dark period for our country. That was the case until All Might came around. She had a faraway look in her eyes as she reminisced about the past. Think about how much he had sacrificed for this country, for us to live in a period of peace. And not only him, but all the pro heroes that risk their lives every day to fight crime and protect the innocent. Our comfortable lives are possible only thanks to their sacrifices. Most of them do it for the money, though. Naruto mumbled, does it matter what their motivation is? Why does it matter that someone is saving people from a burning house? Because they want money. I don't know about you, but whether it is for money or fame, I don't care what reasons they have. At the end of the day, what matters is that they are keeping people safe. She took his hand in hers again as she said, if you truly don't want to become a hero, your dad and I will not force you. We have told you before, no matter what path you choose, we will support you. You are our only son. But if you still want to become a pro, don't give up just because of your fear for our safety. While you are away, I will keep myself and your dad safe. Becoming a pro hero is one of the noblest aspirations to have. Naruto did not reply to her right away, appearing to be lost in thought. Okay, but I want to think about it a little more still. I think it's better if I don't participate in the sports festival this year. Are you sure? From what I understand, all pro hero agencies in the country are focused on this event. It's one of your only 3 chances to catch their eyes. It could influence your future career a lot. What more could I do to impress anyone after USJ? He said with a deadpan. She blinked at him for a moment before saying, oh. He chuckled at her reaction. Besides, it's not safe for me to fight now. I haven't had the chance to test my limits. I don't know my own strength anymore, he said as he thought back to the incident from the previous day when he had accidentally sent Bakugo flying with just a light shove. I'm not at my best right now. These 2 new tails have messed with my sense of balance, and I'm still feeling tired after my quirk's double awakening, he added, after making a small pause. Anyway, it's alright, I've gotten enough recognition already as it is. Some reporters told me that there are even scouts from foreign hero agencies that have come to Japan to scout me. I don't think job opportunities will ever be a problem for me. I'll let other people have their chance at shining and impressing the pros in this festival. Look at you acting all magnanimously and big-hearted, caring for your classmates. Like that, Kushina said sarcastically. They chuckled together at her words. As they were laughing, a knock was heard and Minato poked his head from behind the door, but when he saw Kushina and Naruto sitting comfortably in bed and laughing, he came inside and put his hands on his hips. "Naruto, your classmate has already left, saying he was running late. Aren't you going to school today? It's the sports festival." But before Naruto could reply, he continued, "More importantly, Kushina, what are you doing? What have I said about hogging Naruto all to yourself? We are going to have a big problem." Saying that, Minato jumped and dived into the bed on top of them. Naruto let out an oof sound. Kushina squealed and the bed groaned as the weight of a full-grown man crashed into them. Soon the family of three burst into yells and laughter as Minato initiated a tug-of-war with his wife, with Naruto being stuck in the middle.